Why hello there, I'm Professor Joel and welcome to another episode of Planet Scooby Reviews. Today we are covering the Creepy Heap from the Deep, which is the 8th episode and final episode of the second season of the Scooby-Doo Show. And this episode originally aired on October 29th, 1977. This episode sees the gang encountering a strange monster that's kind of like a mishmash of a variety of creatures. It's got like one eye and it's got like, kind of looks like one of those deep sea monsters, but it's got like crab arms and it can run after you. And yeah, kind of a bizarre looking monster. And it's got kelpish spaghetti-like hair. But yeah, they're at a beach party of the gang and they run into this monster. And then shortly after, they meet an old sea captain who explains the monster can steal your spirit. Now, they don't say soul in this episode. I guess soul is too much to do for kids, so they say spirit. Not much trivia for this episode, other than I still would love a season 2 DVD release or Blu-ray for the Scooby-Doo Show. It's been forever. This episode, 1977. It's been like so long. 44 years, I guess. If my math's right. I don't think my math's right. Yeah, my math's right. 44 years. Still haven't gotten this episode. Review, like series, season 2. I'd love it. Anyway, enough of me complaining. Let's get on with the review. The episode begins with a strange, one-eyed monster emerging from the depths of the ocean. We then pan to a nearby beach where the gang are cooking up hot dogs on the beach on a foggy night. Despite getting lost and ending up on the wrong beach, Velma tries to make the best of it by wearing a festive chef hat. Out in a dinghy, Shaggy and Scooby are out catching fish when Scooby reels in a big one. The fish unfortunately turns out to be the Creepy Heap, who snaps at him with his crab-like pinchers.
Boy, we sure goofed when we planned this beach party.
I'll say. First we took the wrong turn off and ended up on this spooky beach.
Hey, Shaggy, how's our dinner coming?
One seafood special coming up.
A sea monster's after Shaggy and Scooby.
The sea monster then chases after the entire gang, who manage to escape by running up a steep cliff to a weird old house.
We're cut off!
Run for that house on the cliff. It's our only chance.
Knocking on the door, they meet Captain Clements, who lets the gang call the police on his phone. Unfortunately, though, the storm has downed the phone lines.
What a weird old place.
What can I do for you, mateys?
Can we use your phone, sir? We need your help.
Because of that creepy heap from the deep.
Quick inside. This old antique is dead.
Aye, the lines must have been down by the storm.
Or the monster.
Captain Clements explains that over 100 years ago, an evil sailor had a curse put on him by his shipmates before they threw him overboard. And now he's come back as a supernatural creature. The captain further explains that the sea monster needs human spirits to stay alive.
The legend says that 100 years ago, an evil sailor had a terrible curse put on him by his shipmates, and they threw him overboard. And now, he's come back, changed into this awful, unspeakable, supernatural creatures. Being supernatural, it needs human spirits to stay alive.
Freddy and the gang leave, with Freddy determined to contact the sheriff. As the captain closes the door, we see him surprised by something off camera. Back at the Mystery Machine, the van is covered in seaweed. Nearby, there are some footprints that lead back to the captain's house, so wanting to warn the captain about the sea monster, the gang rush back to his house where the front door has been smashed in.
The creature tried to destroy the Mystery Machine. Those prints lead back toward the captain's house. Come on, we've got to warn him.
On a comfy chair sits the husk of Captain Clements, as the sea monster has stolen his spirit. In the dust of a nearby end table, he has scrawled out the words, creature, spirit.
Jinkies, we're too late. Look at Captain Clements.
Zoinks! The monster's got him.
Look, he tried to leave a message. The creature stole his spirit.
Freddy vows to capture the sea monster so they can get Captain Clements' spirits back. Meanwhile, Shaggy and Scooby stay back to guard the captain. The captain wakes up in a trance and declares that he's controlled by the creature and is after Scooby and Shaggy's spirits.
What are you doing out of your chair?
More victims. No, the creature owns my spirit.
Thus, we soon get a quick chase scene where our two pals do their best to evade the possessed captain. Finding their way into an elevator, Shaggy and Scooby descend down to the cliff's beach where they have now run into the Creepy Heap, and another chase occurs.
Feels like we're going down. This is an elevator. Hey, we're back on the beach. The elevator came right down through the cliff.
Freddy and the girls manage to see the sea monster and Scooby and Shaggy chase, so they rush towards the chase, but the sea monster runs out to the sea as there's a blinking light that he is following. Up at the captain's house, they also notice another blinking light. Using a dinghy, the gang follow the Creepy Heap out to the sea where they end up in a fog bank. Using their scuba gear, Shaggy and Scooby swim downward to the ocean to explore even further. From their dinghy above, Freddy sees Scooby and Shaggy being chased, so Freddy and the girls also don their scuba gear and follow Scooby, Shaggy, and the monster into an old submarine. The old submarine is pressurized so everyone can wander about without using their oxygen tanks. Once again, they split up where Scooby and Shaggy run into the monster. While trying to escape, Shaggy opens up an outside door and water begins flooding the submarine. The rush of water sends Scooby and Shaggy back to Freddy and the girls, where they end up in a locked room where the water level begins to rise. Fortunately, they have their scuba gear and are able to open up the airlock to make their way outside and back to the beach. Velma, Shaggy, and Scooby head off to look for some clues, and they find an old shack. It's full of junk and a friendly hermit. The hermit has a pet shark named Walter, which sends the trio off and running.
Visitors, welcome. Come back anytime.
Freddy and Daphne follow more tracks and they find a rubber key on the path of the tracks. The sea monster shows up and once again everyone reunites. Relaxing by the mystery machine, they spot the blinking light once more, so they hop in the dinghy and paddle out to sea. They soon arrive at a freighter where they get on board and see a crane loading the sea monster aboard as well. In the chart room, they see that the submarine is directly below the ship, so they once more jump in the water and swim down to the submarine.
Wow! They're hauling that sea monster aboard.
The submarine is directly under this ship.
We'll all have to go back down to the sub.
Inside the ship, they find jars of hair dye and peroxide, along with a wanted sign of a burglar and a recent Polaroid of him with blonde hair instead of black hair.
What are we looking for? Wow, get a load of this setup. Brown hair dye, peroxide?
Why, it's an underwater beauty parlor. Wanted for burglary, robbery, and numerous other crimes.
And it's him, okay? Even with the blonde hair and mustache disguise.
The sea monster and the possessed captain then show up and chase the gang.
Creepers, it's Captain Clemens and the creature.
You will never leave.
Into a torpedo room where Scooby sets off a torpedo by accident. The torpedo gives Freddy an idea, so he sets a trap and they soon capture the sea monster and the spiritless Captain Clements, who are launched back to the beach by the torpedo gear. The sheriff soon arrives and arrests everyone who was on the freighter.
Now this is what I call a fine catch.
And on the beach, the gang explained that the captain used the sunken ship as a laboratory to change criminals' appearances. By dressing the prisoners up first in his Creepy Heap costume, the prisoner could then scare off any curious onlookers, and the suit had an air tank and a jet motor built in, allowing him to swim from the cabin to the submarine. Once in the submarine, the captain dyed his hair and changed his appearance, and a crane would pull the prisoner aboard a freighter, where they could then sneak the criminal out of the country with some fake papers. The rubber key Freddy found earlier was how the prisoner escaped from prison. Unmasking the Creepy Heap, it does turn out to be a recent prisoner who escaped.
Well, we rounded up everybody aboard the freighter. You say Captain Clemens here was a mastermind, huh?
He was the one who discovered the wrecked submarine.
And realized it could be used as a secret laboratory to help criminals escape from the country.
The criminal would put on the monster suit in the captain's house to scare off any curious onlookers on the beach.
Then he'd signal the ship to be ready and swim out to the sub using the powerful jet motor built into the creature suit.
Captain Clemens would be waiting in the submarine to change the criminal's appearance and give him phony papers.
Then the ship's crane would pluck him out of the water.
And he'd be taken safely out of the country.
Hey, there's been an all-points bulletin on this one. He's a notorious bank robber who just broke out of jail.
Which explains the homemade cell block key I found.
With another mystery solved, the gang head off on their next adventure. I give this episode a 7.5 out of 10.
Now this is what I call a fine catch.
While I enjoyed this episode a lot, I didn't love it. It's not like a 10 out of 10 for me. I felt it had some flaws for myself. I thought the opening was very strong. It kind of harkens back to A Clue for Scooby-Doo because they're having the beach party. I love seeing Velma in her little chef's hat, and Freddy and Daphne are cooking up hot dogs. Shaggy and Scooby are fishing. But yeah, they reel in that sea monster. We kind of saw them do that with the Scooby-Doo's Night with a Frozen Fright. That kind of happened. And so that's kind of repetitive. So, we've seen this before in 2 other episodes, Clue for Scooby-Doo and the Frozen Fright. But the captain's house on top of the cliff, that was fantastic and spooky. And the look of the possessed captain was very chilling. That was terrifying. He made a better villain than the Creepy Heap. So while we're on the topic of the Creepy Heap, I found him just to be a little bit silly. Didn't love this creature design. I love the creativity of it. I just didn't find it creepy or spooky. It just looked more silly and cartoonish to me. But if you find him creepy, that's cool. For me, if I saw him in real life, yeah, I'd be creeped out. But on a cartoon, I guess, I wasn't the biggest fan. Also, there's just too many chase scenes in this one, like where they could have set up the atmosphere a little more, or maybe had a little more about the clues and whatnot. There was just chase scene after chase scene after chase scene. A typical Scooby-Doo episode, we get like 3 chase scenes, but I feel like this one had like 9, just mini chase scenes that just were killing time, where they could have maybe spent a little more on the plot. So yeah, that's kind of my fault with these episodes. The Hermit, that was like a minute long and it was kind of redundant, and that kind of reminded me of Jeepers and the Heapers Hermit, just kind of thrown in there again to pad out the time, I guess. So yeah, I didn't love those parts, but the start, the opening, the captain losing his spirit, very creepy. And the plot was way too complicated. Like, this plot's a mess. So yeah, the captain had a secret underground submarine, but he had this house on top of a cliff, so he could have probably used like a cave to done all this makeup. And all he's doing is dyeing someone's hair. Like, you don't need a submarine for that. You can run to the drugstore and buy some hair dye, and there's, for men, it's called Just for Men. If you got gray hair, you dye it black or whatever, and yeah, you just do that. You don't have to spend a fortune on a submarine. Like, how are you making money off these criminals? I know you're like skimming off their stolen money, but they probably don't have the stolen money because they got caught. So yeah, sunken submarine, keeping that active, that's going to be expensive. You don't need all this stuff. It just seemed too out there. Still, I enjoyed this episode and highly recommend you giving it a watch if you haven't. It is very cool. Again, hard to find because there's no season 2 series released, so it is a little bit more difficult to find. But yeah, great episode, 7.5 out of 10. Anyway, that wraps up my reviews for season 2. And next week I will be doing my ranking video. And then after that, we'll be diving into my summer hiatus. So I'll be doing some scrappy shorts, those 7-minute shorts once a week until September, when I'll be starting with the half-hour Scooby-Doo episodes with Scrappy. Those have the full gang. So that still has Freddy, Velma, Daphne, and Shaggy, along with Scrappy. Anyway, until next week, stay spooky.